Thank you so much. And thank you everyone that's tuning in. The importance of brand building is something that I know is a struggle, but also a necessary struggle to ensure the success of your venues and events. And I think that the panel that's been assembled today by Independent Venue Week is an incredible set of folks that I'm excited to speak to. So I think the best way to start off would be for everyone to introduce yourselves on the panel. I'll start with you, Dustin.
Helps if I unmute myself a year and a half into this and I still can't get that right. Well, how's everybody doing? My name is Dustin Sugarmore. I'm the marketing director at I.M.P. in DC. We own the 930 Club and the Anthem, and we book and operate Merriweather Post Pavilion and Lincoln Theater. Yeah, that's me.
Great, and I'll go over to you, John and Kari.
Hi there, Kari LaRue here.
John LaRue, Deep Ellum Art Company here in Dallas, Texas. We're the owner, operators, and bartenders, and floor muckers, and porters, and everything else.
And Michael?
Hey, I'm Michael. I'm the co-founder of Media Whisper, a digital marketing agency based in Nashville. I'd say we made our mark running the social media presence for a lot of Live Nation clubs and theaters, all the House of Blues, Fillmore's, from the Wiltern in LA to Irving Plaza in New York City. Before you guys kick me off this panel, that relationship predictably came to an end last May, and really thrust our agency in the battle to save independent venues, promoters, and agencies. That led us to working with NITO, IPA, and NIVA. I'm just excited to share what I've learned over the last 12 years or so from managing venue socials.
Thank you all so much. And I'm Lennora. I'm the CMO of the Pabst Theater Group and formerly the chair of the marketing division of NIVA. So I'm glad everyone could join us. It has been a challenging year to say the least, something that none of us could have ever predicted. And as we're all gearing back to open and hopefully try to recover some of our losses, branding has been something that, if it was a challenge in the past, is going to be even more of a challenge in the future, because on top of us trying to get our revenue streams going, we've got every restaurant and bar and everything else out there that's competing that's also trying to get going. So the first question that we have is, what can a venue do to strengthen its presence in the city? And I'm going to start with John and Kari, because I feel like you guys have been open a little bit earlier than the rest of us, and Dallas has been a market that has definitely embraced being wide open earlier than a lot of other cities. So what are some things that you guys have tried to do to strengthen your presence and get the word out that you're open?
Well, we're really fortunate in that we have a great community that kind of surrounds Artco. We cultivated a group that we affectionately refer to as our Jamily. We've tried to spread that same concept to a whole lot of other markets. So we've really been relying on them to show up for these first couple of months, because we are obviously booking local stuff only. And most people in those groups are familiar with those acts. Collaboration, bringing in creatives from all the arts is really important to us. We want to make sure that we have, it's Artco, so we want to make sure we have a well-rounded program there. Using our community groups on social media, talking to them directly, using the email groups that we had prior to, and communicating with those people directly, it really helps. And giving our community a voice right now, it has been really empowering. Asking them, what do they want to see? Hey, we're limited in what we can do right now. Would you be into this? What would you guys like to see? And we actually got pretty good feedback on our New Year's plans that way, which helped a lot, which is, already reminding people like, well, we're back and we're planning on trying to last at least through New Year's at this point. So that's keeping people's mind on what we've got going on, which helps.
I like that. And Michael, for social media and trying to just get people engaged again, because a lot of that traffic that was normally going to the pages for these venues hasn't been to that page in a year, or has only been on that page sporadically because of obviously less live entertainment and content on the pages. So how do you use social media to try and drive traffic back to your page, and to also kind of make people comfortable with the fact that yes, you can be in a venue close to people
Mhm.
and it's safe, you know, like, safe, I guess would be the word, but I'm not the CDC, so I don't know what word to use, to be honest.
Yeah, one thing that made last year so unique is we just weren't talking about shows. We were talking about other things. And I think that really opened up an opportunity for a lot of venues to really embed themselves in the local communities when we're not announcing shows, when we're not posting pre-sale codes. What are we doing to further the brand and tell the story of the venue? I think one thing that venues got really comfortable with last year that I'm really encouraged and excited by is using their marquees, right, to advocate for legislation, to talk about social issues going on in the country and around the world. That was something that I would love to see continue throughout 2021 and beyond, is continuing to talk about these issues, to use your marquees to share community news, to talk about sports, maybe notable retirements, right? We've got the MLB draft, for example, was just last night. I mean, the #1 overall pick was went to the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, why couldn't a Pittsburgh venue say "Welcome to town, Henry Davis"? You know, something like that. Snap a photo, put it on social media. There's a lot of opportunities like that before you just start get pounded with social media content for shows again. So that's something I'm excited to see venues continue doing, is using their voice, continue to be part of the communities, right? Maybe the fire chief down the street at the fire station retires after 30 years. Why not put up a message on that? Why not put something up on social media and remind fans that you guys are part of the community? And yeah.
And Dustin, how have you guys tried to, because you've rolled out one venue, but not all venues. So how do you, navigate those waters and the communication to the audience in your city?
Well, kind of like Michael was saying, yeah, we've opened Merriweather Post Pavilion, and the 3 DC venues have yet to reopen. They'll be reopening in the next couple of weeks, though. Don't worry, everybody. But like Michael was saying, we kept people engaged over the past year and a half with the, obviously knowing that at some point we're going to need to market shows to them again. So we got real creative with our social media and our email blast, and put word games together and featured new music and gathered music content from around the web, and created Zoom backgrounds, which I intended to use today and just now remembered. But yeah, we've done everything in our power to keep people as engaged as possible while we were closed, so that the engagement continues when we start announcing shows again, or when we did start announcing shows again. And just to piggyback off of what Michael said, as far as the marquees go, we have a very famous, well-known, now famous marquee at the Anthem that we've used for all kinds of Save Our Stages messaging over the past year. But most recently, we've also been using it to advocate for DC statehood. And we use it throughout the year to advocate for all kinds of community issues, mostly local issues, but not all of them. And just as a general statement to the original question, which was how does a venue strengthen their standing in the community? Mm-hmm. Give back to the community that supports you. Take up those issues, raise funds, open your doors for protesters or COVID testing or vaccines, which we've done all of those things while our venues were shut down. So that certainly keeps people engaged as well.
And what are some things you guys do to keep regulars coming to the venue? I thought that was an excellent question, actually Will had sent to us. And it's certainly something that will make or break a venue, because you've got to get people through the door, but they need to come through the door more than once. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes back to the beginning of 930 Club. It's been around for 41 years now. And it was really founded as kind of a place where anything goes and everybody's accepted. And so that it was sort of the DIY venue of its time, I guess. And that kind of created a cool factor that kept people coming back. More recently, we have a loyalty program cutely called Friends with Benefits. And it rewards customers for buying tickets, attending shows, buying merch, or buying concessions. They get points, and then they can later redeem those points for more tickets, concessions, or merch. And it is hugely popular. And we are just now ramping it back up, and I'm really excited to see what that does in the next year.
Oh, that's great. And John and Kari, what about your venues?
Well, Kari's point really was about affiliation. You know, go ahead.
People, we've really discovered that, as much as Deep Ellum Art Company is an awesome place, if people haven't identified personally with John and I, it really is kind of faceless, if you will. And we've built a team that believes in the brand as well. And so every time, guests walk through the door, they really do feel the hospitality. Everybody comments about, just the vibe that is just attracts the community of creators. Even if there's not an act billed to play on the stage, you can always have a cool experience, regardless. The art gallery wall, rotates semi-regular, a little slower now. It was just trying to get the wheels turning back after COVID. But we try to highlight as many local artists as possible, coming back to the collaboration factor, that if you get people invested in helping you build that brand, that it really does get your foothold all the more strong.
Yeah. And Kari made the point earlier on to me, people aren't fans of the Dallas Mavericks because of the American Airlines Center. It's not because of the venue that they play in. It's because they feel connection to the team. So I don't know that it's necessarily the four walls of Artco that make it what it is. It's the connection to the people that are there, and feeling connected to your local community when you're there is really important. People comment on that all the time, how they've met friends there, they've made friends there, they've grown their social networks, and to offer a place where that can happen, especially for someone who moves from another market and hears like, hey, this is a great place to go and meet folks. We hear that time and time again, which means that we're doing a good job at fostering a place where people feel welcome and are excited to be regardless. We have a lot of customers that roll up to the door and they've got their wallet out and they're counting their money, asking, so who's on tonight? And that lets us know that we're cultivating an experience regardless of who's on our stage that people can count on as something that's a quality experience. So.
And when you're talking to people on social media, Michael, how do you recommend that a venue basically curate their pages in order to create what John and Kari were speaking about here, and fostering a more personal relationship with the consumers?
Yeah, I would say I would encourage venues to not shy away from showing off some of the personalities within the venue. Bartenders, why not show off a video of a bartender putting together a drink? Why not show a day in the life of a box office manager, printing tickets? Why not show off the coat check attendant, something like that? These, again, you guys are talking about these connections, these familiar faces. And a lot of these venues are uniquely situated in neighborhoods where you really can foster those types of relationships. And a lot of those relationships really do develop at the bar. So I would not shy away from showing off a lot of the personalities within the venue, help them with develop social media content for themselves. Maybe a bartender develops a little following, you never know. I would also remind everyone you can target ads on Facebook and Instagram up to a mile radius. So if you really did want to run a drink special in your neighborhood, you can literally get pretty granular. I mean, a mile is fairly granular when we're talking about these big metropolises. So drink specials, maybe show your ID and you've got a certain zip code on your ID and you get a certain drink special, or buy one, get one, something like that. And then I would also try to foster relationships with any kind of housing groups or apartment complexes. Are there any community bulletin boards you guys can print out things and put up drink specials on the bulletin boards, or open mic nights, whatever it may be, that can draw those locals in that are within walking distance or Uber distance or something like that, can really help you foster those relationships with the locals. And they're going to snap photos. There's going to be Instagram stories. So it's really about getting them in the door. It's almost like the equivalent of like papering a show. Sometimes you just got to get people in the doors, have that experience, remind them what magic, what it means to be inside of a music venue again, whether or not there's live music on stage. That connectivity and that community, I think, is something everyone's going to be searching for after really being kind of locked away for the last year and a half.
And I love, John and Kari, that you guys have artwork inside your venue. Do you feel like that has also helped your online presence and getting people to, it kind of creates like viral content without you having to spend any
Without a
money.
doubt.
Yeah,
Without a doubt, that kept us completely connected during lockdown, during pandemic. The show we had, we were able to, continue to showcase those items virtually, and keep us not only connected to the artists that were participating in the show, but the community in general. And that was a real lifeline, honestly.
Yeah, and it felt great to make a PayPal payment to somebody, in the middle of June when nobody had been out of their house.
Yeah,
for
the
a couple
doors had been
months.
closed,
And,
we
and,
were.
and to drop a little happy in somebody's inbox, it boosts the spirits of not just us, but that artist as well. And it's something we can tell our community about. Like, hey, look what you guys did. You helped someone else out, whether you realize it or not, that makes an impact. Another big thing for us is making artists happy. And that's the guys that are on the stage, the people that are on the wall, whatever. Fun starts on our stage and it floods the rest of the room from there. So if our artists are enjoying the experience from load in to load out, they're going to want to come back. They're going to tell their friends. They're going to help grow our brand outside of our doors. They become brand ambassadors, just like people wearing an Articos shirt out in the neighborhood or out of state or wherever. They're helping to grow our brand without us even being present, which is really important. Just treating people well goes so far, and that's the artist all the way to the customer. And that's something we've always kind of made sure that we put first and foremost with our formula of how to operate.
And when you guys, Dustin, were doing, you guys had opened your venues to protesters, to COVID-19 vaccinations. How did you guys spread the word for those things? Like, how did you become involved in the community? Because I think a lot of challenges too is, I want to be active. Who should I reach out to? How do I get active? Especially if you're a new venue, like you may not have ties to your mayor or whatnot, but you want to do something. So how did you guys set those things up and become active in the community for your venue?
I mean, lucky for us, we do have those relationships with the DC Health Department and the mayor, and they know, they know that we're a big open room that's shut down. So they sometimes approached us for that sort of stuff. When we opened the doors up to protesters, we had seen a growing trend online and thought, well, this aligns with our views and we want to support this in any way we can, but we're closed. Normally we'd, have a benefit concert to raise money for the local Black Lives Matter chapter or whatever, but we couldn't do that when we were closed. So, we opened our doors up, and I mean, the way that we spread the word is social media and email. That was really all we had at our fingertips while we were shut down. So, but it definitely was plenty, and it worked. And just to jump off of what John was saying about treating everyone with respect, I mean, it's surprising sometimes to go into a venue where you don't feel like everyone is being treated. That it seems like a crazy thing to say, but not every venue puts a focus on treating people with dignity. And that's definitely something we do at all of our venues. And 930 is very much known for that. And same with the artists, you treat every band like they're the biggest band that's ever come across your stage, because when they are, you want them to come back.
And did you guys feel like, in getting involved, especially in the past year during such a polarizing time, did you feel like you had any, did you feel like people embraced the way you guys were getting involved, or did you feel like you had backlash from that? And how did you guys balance, what to get involved in and when? Yeah,
I mean, I'll definitely admit that at first it took us a minute to find our footing and to we knew that everything was coming from the right place, but it's definitely hard to find that line of what gets perceived as performative and what's actually helpful. And so it definitely took us a minute, but we did get there. And we learned from the feedback that we got from our loyal followers that told us what we were doing right and what we were doing wrong. But once we found our footing, we knew that we were in the right place and that what we were doing was actually supporting the movement and being helpful.
And I think another challenge with what you guys are saying too is, since we're all independent venues here and we don't have huge staffs, like John and Kari, how are you guys managing? I mean, it's great because I actually would have posed this question to everyone, because Dustin, I know your staff is cut down too. So if I'm gonna start with you, John and Kari, on how you're managing it, and then I'd like to go to you, Michael, to see like what are some recommendations for how venues can manage to, like, yes, we all want to increase engagement and get the word out there, and we're trying to do that to be a staple of the community, but how are you managing it? And then Michael, like, what are some recommendations for small venues on how to keep your heads above water,
If you don't know how to do everything yet, learn right now. Unfortunately, our payroll has been cut in half. Fortunately and fortunately, we had to do that in order to survive, to make it to where we are right now. In that, cutting our staff down, Kari and I are running all the socials. We're running all the I'm building graphics again on Photoshop. I haven't done that in years and years. She's doing all the email blasts and social media stuff, and building the website things and talent buying, calendar managing, and all that. So we've, unfortunately, we're down those people that would normally be helping us with those tasks, but that's really what's helped us survive in the interim. And we're definitely looking to start ramping back up in the fall as our calendar fills up and bring people back in. It's just going to be difficult, to find people that don't already have a new gig, and a lot of people change career paths as well during this crazy time. So just bringing back audio engineers and an extra LD, and all these things are going to be difficult for us. So we're making sure that we can cover every possible gap that might come up right now, whether that's going to run lights or having to work the box office or doing graphics or any of that stuff, so that we can make sure we're there when we can bring people back in, and we can maybe be a little choosy as far as who we do bring back on, to make sure that we have the best possible chance of success.
And Michael, I think, having your recommendation is key, because I think everyone also needs to understand that you were doing hundreds of venues at the same time, and you also had a small staff and trying to manage all of those venue pages. So what do you recommend? Like, how did you, I mean, not what's the secret sauce, you know what I'm saying? Because you might need to call Michael if you need the secret sauce, but what are some bullet points that you think you could give us?
Yeah, definitely having a plan for sure. At one point, we were making upwards of 150 to 200,000 posts a year for our venue clients, which is just astronomical. Some organic posts, some went publicly, some were running as dark ads behind the scenes. So definitely having a plan. And before we were chatting, I reminded Dustin that Media Whisper had released an editorial calendar earlier in the pandemic. It found its way into the NIVA newsletter in December. I can drop a link actually to it in the chat. But definitely,
could you please drop a link in the chat? Because I really do think that this is, this is really a tool I think a lot of venues. It's interesting because, just so everyone knows, like, in the past I was on the Live Nation side as well, and there's people like Michael that are behind the scenes for these large companies that have these excellent systems and tools in place, and to have you, Michael, be able to come to the independent side and share this knowledge with us, and any tools, or if we can work with your company directly, is really is really excellent to say the least.
I mean, there's a lot of requests coming in from a lot of different directions, and I think what having a great plan, or in this case a great editorial calendar, allows you to do is kind of like holistically take a look at everything that's going up and saying, wow, we haven't really engaged the community that's into this kind of thing in a while. We should probably do that, or we really need to play to, or we should show some love to whatever maybe that just opened down the street, some really cool farmers market or something like that. Again, as we're talking about kind of continuing to engage in the locals. What I think everyone did so great last year was becoming transparent with their fans, and I think we should really take a lot of those learnings and continue them and sprinkle them in between all of the posts, between trying to sell the tickets, is continue to be transparent about the venue, what the venue is going through, what the venue is trying to achieve, some of the long-term goals with the venue. I mean, I think, and Dustin could probably speak to this. I mean, Audrey Fix-Schaefer was such a blessing to independent venues, continuing to keep venues in the local spotlight, in the national spotlight, and really the worldwide spotlight. That's going to kind of slowly fade away, and it's starting to fade away now. And it really comes back onto the venues to tell their local stories. Not just who's coming to town in 3 months, right? Or, hey, this show is happening in 6 months from now, you should buy tickets. It's what's happening right now in the community. So again, kind of having a good plan and having a good calendar allows you to just skip ahead and just say, you know, in July, we should post about X, Y, and Z 3 or 4 times, maybe once a week. Sorry, that's 3 or 4 times throughout the month, or once a week. Sorry if that was confusing. But yeah, and then dot in all the other posts around it just to make sure we're putting our locals and our community first.
I want to emphasize that because I really do feel like what I'm hearing from everyone on the panel, which is important for us all to absorb, is that we have to be active in our own communities, and we also have to speak out. So I think that, you know, regardless of political issues, I think it's just about being present in your community and part of the fabric of it, which can be difficult, obviously, because we all are wearing so many different hats. But some of the suggestions that you had, Michael, of, hey, you know what, this firefighter is retiring after 30 years, like that's just information and being part of the community that we can actually get out there. And it gets your voice out there as a venue to say, oh, you know, Kari and John posted this about so-and-so. They're so cool. I gotta head down there to visit. I remember the last time I was there, I had such a great time with my friends. We need to put that on the calendar. And I think too, like Dustin, the things that you were saying too, you know, volunteering, having rewards programs, especially the rewards program for people to say, you know what, this is my hangout spot. This is where I go on Saturday nights. I'm going to go once a month, you know, reconnect with my old college buddies, and we're just going to go to a show. And I think that John and Kari, when you were saying people come and just say, well, who do you have on tonight? That just shows the power of actually having a community presence and having a real connection with audiences so that they see your venue as their go-to spot, not necessarily I'm only going to come if you have my morning jacket. Just coming because it's a cool place to hang out. I love the idea too of having a bartender start their pages, you know, like because at the end of the day, everyone's an ambassador for your venue. So yes, a lot of the technical duties are going to be you physically at the venue having to do everything to get your show in place, but everyone that works there, every customer that comes through the door, you should see them as part of your marketing team, because if they take one photo and put it on their social media pages, you're reaching, you know, even if it's 100 people that they have following them, it's like you're going to reach 100 people without you having to do anything but make sure that this wall is well, this wall is not a good example because I picked a plain wall, but John and Kari, your wall's better. Making sure your wall is ready to go for the photo. Don't look at this wall. No, don't look at that. Anyway, so I wanted to give everyone a chance to kind of go through like 1 or 2 marketing items that you saw. It doesn't have to be something that your venue did, but something that you saw that you thought was impactful or that really made a difference. Like for example, I always see angel wings. Like when I see a wallscape of angel wings, there's always a line of people, you know, taking photos of that wallscape. And that's just like free advertising for whatever business had that up there. And I think that those angel wings are definitely an example of like something that can be done, you know, one time, artist paints it on your wall and you've got people taking photos there for the rest of the year. And there could be things that you guys venues that you're like, hey, everyone loves to take a poster, take a picture of this at our venue. Or I saw this really cool marketing campaign that I would love to do. Like, for example, I saw an Instagram meme. Well, I'm in Wisconsin, everyone. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And a famous one here is that someone had opened the door of their kitchen and there was a deer eating their Doritos. And I was like, now why Doritos didn't make that a commercial, I don't know, but hugely popular here. So what are some things that you guys have seen? Because I think a lot of times we get so stuck in all the work that we physically have to do that we don't take the time to share, hey, this is something really cool that I saw. And you know, you might take that idea and do something with your venue. But I think brainstorming is an important part of the process to get your brand out there and to kind of connect with people. So does anyone, I'll start with you, Dustin, because we just heard from Michael. Do you have any cool things that you saw that you thought were really impactful?
I mean, well, I'm constantly looking at other venues' merch, like it's an obsession.
Great
I mean, it is an obsession. I look at other venues merch all the time, and it really happened. Like I started doing that during the pandemic when we were trying to come up with new ideas, new to us ideas. Obviously, if somebody else is doing it, it's not new. But and so now I just constantly am looking at merch, trying to get new ideas. Let's see. I mean, as far as like Instagrammable moments, we've got a couple of those going on at 930 Club. We put big Save Our Stages spray painted stencils outside of the club over the past year that obviously got a lot of Instagram posts. We have a tower on the top of the club that we light up differently depending on the time of year or the holiday or whatever, if there's a cause we're supporting, and that gets a lot of social media traction as well. And then we also, I'm sure many of you have heard of our cupcakes, our famous cupcakes, but the 930 cupcakes have been around much longer than Instagram's popularity, but an added bonus is that they're super photogenic too. So yeah.
And John and Kari?
I mean, we've seen all sorts of cool things. One thing I really like is the green screen photograph at venues. We have several from a local theater, Granada Theater here, that, it's a picture of us with our friends and, green screen image of the artist who's on stage right behind you over your shoulder. And it's just little stuff like that that reminds you of what a great time you had at that experience. We found, just having the things people can take with them. Merch is a great example of art. When someone buys a piece of art off the wall to show, that's on their wall at home, and it's a reminder of that experience as well. And they'll tell other people about it. Maybe they'll snap a photo if they remember our request and share it online. And even little things, hat pins and stuff like that. A ton of those during pandemic time. We have a big display of them on the bar now, and people spend 5-10 minutes just looking at little $6 pins. And the person who was only going to buy a beer is now buying a beer and a $6 pin as well, which helps your bottom line a lot when those pins are just pennies on the dollar. So just everything from big impact to small impact. We have tons of artwork around the venue that people take pictures in front of and share. That's something we're really big fans of. We have some angel wings in the ladies' restroom, which has the best paint job in the entire place. We have unisex bathrooms, and then we also have a men's and ladies outside, so we can do dual function stuff. But the one outside it steals the show. It's so pretty.
And I want to stress to everyone that even though we're kind of glossing over it, like, oh, merch, I mean, someone wearing that t-shirt, that's a walking billboard for you all day. And they're going to wear that shirt for the next 3 years, right? So having excellent merch that people can pick up, I mean, everybody needs a t-shirt, right? So I definitely, the hats, t-shirts, any merch items that you can do that are creative, that's just as important, because not everybody's on social media. If you have an older audience, that t-shirt is going to be more impactful than a post on social media. So I do want to say that I think you guys do an excellent job of merch and the art. I love the art. I absolutely love it. My sister's an artist. Maybe I'm biased. So yeah, I might be biased, but anyway, I think those are excellent ideas. Michael, do you have any ideas or things that you've seen that you thought worked really well or that was impactful?
Definitely. I mean, being here in Nashville, and my example is like an aggregate of everything that we've talked about so far, and that's Exit In. That was Exit In's transparency through the fight to own their building and their land. They activated their brand ambassadors over email and social media. They launched a special line of merchandise. They used their marquee effectively to get their message across. They used the local media and the relationships that they've forged over 50 years to get out that message. So it's really, as we're talking about some of these venues, young and old, it really is important to be local staples, because, I mean, God forbid we ever have a pandemic like this or need public funding like we did, or in the case of Exit In, fighting to own their building. I mean, you really want these brand advocates and people who have made connections with bartenders, who appreciate the sound quality, who love the egress and ingress of the venue, just whatever it may be, and just can't imagine life without Exit In on the Rock Block or something like that. So all of these things, everything we've talked about today, I think culminates in Exit In, and shout out to Chris Cobb. I don't think he's here, but shout out to Chris Cobb and the team at Exit In for really being transparent and using every weapon at their disposal to advocate and fight for owning their building and their land.
And do you see a lot of value in like venues kind of finding local, sort of digital influencers and inviting them out to shows?
Yeah, I mean, Nashville's definitely unique in that we're just full of musicians. Some of them are sitting at
Yeah.
home waiting to go on tour. Some of them are out on tour, but everyone has an Exit In story or experience, again, over 50 years. I definitely would say so. Also, something Exit In has, we've touched on, is murals. Just, I think their neighboring restaurant, Hurrybacks, they've got a mural on the side as well. So they encourage foot traffic and photos and everything like that. But yes, definitely tapping into the locals. Again, Nashville's so unique with tourism, right? So there's always bachelorette parties and bachelor parties coming in and out, and really telling the story of Nashville outside of Nashville through their social media posts. So I know not every venue and city is in that unique position, but you can still do that on like a micro level as well.
Mm-hmm. And I want to circle back while we still have time, because one of the questions that we had was regarding the Friends with Benefit program, and how to keep track of everything. Like I guess that question is totally directed to you, Dustin. So
It sounds like a nightmare, doesn't it?
it does. It sounds like a lot.
No, we have tens of thousands of members now in our Friends with Benefits program. It's free to sign up. I feel like I'm like in an ad for it. We use a third party called, I'll shout them out here, why not? They're wonderful. They're called Loyalty Match. And they track, it's an online, it's an online based program where we can track everything online, and if we need to dig into a member's account or whatever, we have access to that, but they handle everything. They link into our point of sale systems at our bars and at our merch booths, as well as into our Ticketmaster account, and everything's just kind of automated. As long as the customer's using the email address that they use for Ticketmaster, they'll get their points. So I realize that there is a cost to that may be cost prohibitive to many people, but it works for us, and it's really the only way we could do that with as large as that program has gotten. So Loyalty Match, check them out.
Thank you. That's great. Hey, even if someone can't afford it now, like you could write that down for the future. Like those are goals.
They'll cater. They'll make a plan for you. They'll make it so it fits your size. So hit them up if you're interested.
And I feel like we've talked quite a bit about social media for smaller venues, but there was a question here also about using traditional media. So I'd like to know from the panel, like, does anyone have comments on using some more traditional media? And what do you use in your market, and do you feel it's working? Dustin, I'll probably start with you because you guys have a lot of PR and stuff in your market. So
we still love some print over here in DC, and it still works for us. For the first, 20 to 30 years that the venue existed, it was probably the only way that advertising was being done, was a couple of ads in the Washington Post and City Paper, full calendar ads, so everybody can see all of their options. And post-pandemic, we're ramping that back up, and yes, it works. We know that it works in our market. I don't know that goes for everybody. It's DC, it's political, people do a lot of reading. There's different reasons why that might work better in DC. But yeah, definitely still works. And we do a ton of outdoor advertising too.
And how do you determine where for your outdoor advertising for locations?
We look at the neighborhoods. We handpick everything from, we'll look at the list of DC Metro stops, and we'll pick the ones that, not necessarily the busiest ones, but the ones where we imagine, the folks that like to go out might use and see those. I think that it's tough because those people are everywhere, obviously, but yeah, we handpick them. We drill down into a map, see what areas we may not have covered with our other campaigns, and say, all right, well, we're going to get a bike share in this area, or sometimes we'll make sure that we put them near other venues that we compete with, so that we obviously, concert goers are going to the Fillmore in Silver Spring. Why not put a billboard outside of that? Not to put down the venue or anything, but just to say, well, obviously our fan base is going here too. So why not market to them while they're here?
And John and Kari, do you guys use
Uh,
traditional media in your market?
We're getting back to printing some
We
stuff.
had to cut down paper assets, pretty, like all paper assets,
100%,
really. Yeah,
yeah.
it just wasn't part of the mix, and it wasn't a viable process for us during pandemic times. They're so fun though. I mean, all the artwork that really, the graphics and the artwork and the band graphics really is a mini gallery, right? Because there are a lot of people who are creating those things specifically for concert posters, and it's kind of part of the attraction. If you enjoy going to music venues, seeing those assets and everything to come to look forward to, it's part of the excitement.
One thing we do, we're getting back to now that print assets are coming back to life. We have our own section with big plate glass windows in the front of our venue. In one window we have all of our stuff, and then in two other windows we have where it's at, which is everybody else's stuff. And we find that helps a lot just in fostering community. To Dustin's point of having your billboard next to another venue, having another venue stuff in our window actually shows that we're connected to the rest of that community, and we're promoting stuff that we think is worthwhile for our customers to check out as well.
We can't host all the cool shows,
so we're 550
there's something
cap.
cool everywhere.
We can't have my morning jacket, but you can help us get them. No, I'm kidding. It just shows again that the collaboration and that you're not saying you are the be all end all, but you're an option, and here's some other options as well. I think people really appreciate seeing that in our window, and hopefully we get back to the print ad. Our local media sources are very good about promoting us too. We don't really have to hound anybody to have our shows listed. The Dallas Observer does a great job of that. Dallas Morning News is an extension of them, which is nice. It's nice to have that kind of support. And our local neighborhood, Deep Ellum, is a huge community. It's a half-mile square, basically, over 20 venues. And they have their own website, and they post all the stuff there too. So if that's something people can do, then I highly recommend that. That's a non-traditional media method if you have a neighborhood website that combines all this stuff in one place.
And I'm going to ask the same question to you, Michael, but in a different way, because a lot of these, print publications now are truly relying on their online digital revenue to keep them afloat, because a lot of them have moved for their websites to truly be, their mainstay and source of revenue. How do you feel those display ads, because traditionally it used to be you do a page takeover or something of that nature, and then now everyone's really doing social media ads. So how do you feel like they compare? Like, what do you think is more effective?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll have to think about that. I had an answer prepared, and then you hit me with that. So,
well, you can do your answer, and then you can come back to that.
Well, yeah, I'm in the unique perspective where working with an agency or running an agency. I don't really have the perspective of a lot of traditional advertising, but having been on the other side of things, where I'm in the inbox of music venues, whether it's Instagram direct messages, Twitter, or Facebook, I see how many people often reach out about silent auctions, about raffles. I would encourage venues to try to say yes more often. So these are like non-social media things. Give away tickets, for silent auctions, for raffles, maybe things that you like off menu. Like maybe your venue doesn't even do venue tours, but you've got a Tuesday and there's no show, and you can donate to whatever local charity and offer a backstage tour for 4 people. I'd encourage venues to, if your venue makes food, get out and partake in some local food fairs or food festivities, craft beer, whatever it may be. Even if you don't serve anything, you can still set up like a spin wheel, right? Those wheels where you spin and you get a prize or whatever it may be. So tickets to a show you need to pay for. Again, some of these VIP or touring, backstage tours or something like that. Just continuing our conversation of getting out and being a part of the community. And these are all like non-social media ideas to continue to engage and get people through the doors.
I absolutely love those ideas. And I think it actually leads us to our closing here, which are some, closing remarks and advice from everyone. I really love, by the way, the panel's ability here to not only talk about things that work for larger venues, but also smaller venues. Like, I hope everyone takes away from this that not everything requires you to have a ton of money. social media, your editorial posts on social media are free. Your involvement in the community is free. You talking to a local reporter or a podcast or someone who just has their own little show they're trying to get off the ground on local access TV, all those things are free. So you don't have to have a $20,000 budget for each individual show in order to make something happen here, whether you're a venue that's been in existence for like 40, 50 years or someone that just started. So anyway, from the panel, enough of me running my mouth here. From the panel, any closing words about just best advice, or it doesn't have to be best advice. I want to get everyone all nervous, but just a few sentences from everyone about what you advise for people to do to really make their venue like a local hangout, or a recap of what you've already said. And I'll start with you, Dustin, then I'll go to John and Kari, and then I'll go to Michael.
I think that the best thing I can say to that is just make everyone feel as welcome as possible. We one of the aspects of 930 Club that's like kind of the local hangout is we have a bar in our basement called Back Bar. We don't advertise it. We don't really mention it anywhere. I don't even think there's anything on our website about it. But those who know that it's open on the weekend, not now, but it will be again, and it used to be. It's open on the weekends, whether we have a show or not. Come on down, hang out in our back bar. It's the same bar that was in the old 930 Club. It's in the new 930 Club. So we've created this space that is sort of separate from the club, but obviously still a part of it, where you can just come in and hang out. You don't have to have money to go to a show. You don't even have to care about the show that's playing upstairs. You just come and hang out at the bar, and we'll still treat you like you're the best person on earth if you're just hanging out at our bar.
Love that. John and Kari?
Well, it actually says love over our front door in stained glass, and it's backlit. So we're literally pushing that out into the neighborhood, and it's really what we're asking to come through the doors as well. And treating everybody with love and respect goes a really, really long way. To reiterate what Dustin is saying, it's so important to make people feel welcome and appreciated for being there. That's gone further for us than anything. And it's authentic, because all of us, and it's an honor to be on a panel with y'all, all of us are working for other people's good times. We get a paycheck, hopefully we get a paycheck, which is nice, but ultimately you're putting this effort into everyone else's enjoyment. And that's something you can't forget. You have to have it on your mind all the time.
And Michael?
Yeah, my advice would be having a plan, making sure someone is tasked with running point, almost like air traffic control, about what makes the cut and what doesn't make the cut for social. Being that person, feeling comfortable to ask for what they need, ask for around the video content, or around the venue content, or being able to shoot it themselves. Like we talked about, having a calendar, making sure you've got enough community engagement posts sprinkled in between all of the other posts. And then, speaking local, not being afraid to talk local, use local jargon, local speak, remind people that you're not just another corporate McVenue on the corner, that you've been in the community for X number of years and you plan on staying for even longer. And you guys are in here for the long run to help bands develop and move through the venue, and just remind people about the magic that happens under your roofs.
Thank you all so much. I think that I would probably say that what I love about this panel is that everyone has been so honest and open with their answers and sharing information. I mean, the amount of advice you guys have given on here would make any venue successful. And I think at the end of the day, what you can do best for your venue is to make sure that people know you and know your staff. Because people like people, they don't like just like inanimate objects that they have no tie to. So having great staff, a great bartender. I mean, I was telling my sister last night, I'm still singing T-Pain's song, I Like the Bartender. So since he's got a whole song about the staff, you might want to make sure you have a great staff. T-Pain shout out, I'm still a fan. Anyway, thank you everyone so much. I truly appreciate it. So much information, so much wisdom's been shared here. Your efforts for your venues shine through every day. So I really appreciate everyone doing the call. And thank you so much, Independent Venue Week, for putting this panel together. I really hope everyone got some great takeaways from this. And I hope everyone enjoyed it. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lennora.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Appreciate it. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you
Independent
guys
Venue
so
Week.
much. This is awesome.
Thank you.